Palestinian legal representatives have accused Israel of blocking humanitarian supplies to Gaza as a weapon of war. This on the first day of hearings at the International Court of Justice. The UN's highest court is examining Israel's legal obligation to ensure and facilitate aid deliveries, which are key to the survival of the Palestinian civilian population. Israel has refused to participate in the hearing, describing the UN as biased. Israel also disputes that there is a shortage of aid in Gaza and says it is entitled to block aid, arguing that Hamas seizes it for its own use. Kazem Abu Khalaf speaks for UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, and joins us from Jerusalem. Welcome to DW. So after a month without water, food and medical deliveries, how would you describe the situation in Gaza?
Thanks for having me. For 58 days now, since the 2nd of March, nothing has been allowed into the Gaza Strip. Absolutely nothing. So this makes it even worse than it used to be prior to that. It was the ceasefire period, 42 days, if I'm not mistaken, was just like a dream for the Gazans. But now they need anything that you can think of. So they need water, they need medicine, they need equipment, they need diapers for children, they need anything that anybody can think of, in sense that the Gazans would be able to survive, and they're not getting anything. Before the war, Gaza used to be described as a big prison. Now it's actually a big graveyard, according to some, and it's the worst place for children ever. Nobody is safe, no place is safe, nothing is safe in the Gaza Strip.
And when Israel says there is no shortage of aid in Gaza, what do you say?
Well, I can tell you that UNICEF and other humanitarian agencies, our partners, are out of stock almost in a way or another. In one of our warehouses located far south in the Gaza Strip, we cannot even access it. The reports that are coming from Gaza, the screening of the malnutrition of children, are saying that people are in need for any kind of aid that could enter into the Gaza Strip, which not entering actually. I do remember that on the 9th of March, the electricity that was feeding the desalination plant in Deir el-Balah was cut off. Now this affected 1 million people, including 400,000 children, because this caused a drop of 85% of the production of water. So, I mean, the figures on the ground, and our colleagues on the ground are saying otherwise.
And tell us what your colleagues have told you about what happens on the ground. Aid trucks head for these crossings into the Gaza Strip, and what happens?
Well, they're not allowed in. I mean, they are on the other side of the border, waiting to be allowed in. If the truck is loaded with food, then definitely most of it probably have expired. There is a lot of medical equipment, CPAP, incubators, water, clothes, diapers, antibiotics. All of this is pending to be allowed into the Gaza Strip. We have to remember that in the Gaza Strip there are probably 20, maybe 22 out of 36 hospitals that are partially functioning. And on the other hand, we have according to some of the reports, 15,613 is the number of children killed since the 7th of October. Right. So if you divide that on the days of war, then you're talking the average of 27.9 children killed every day. Give me one place in the world where you can have 27.9 children killed every day for 18 months.
I guess then you are hopeful that today's ICJ hearing will change the current situation.
We're always hopeful. I mean, the ICJ has conducts its proceeding in a separate manner than the rest of the UN system. We respect that. We don't have the mandate actually to comment on it. But what I can tell you is that any effort is needed in the Gaza Strip in terms of the humanitarian response, topped by the effort put by UNRWA, being the largest UN agency delivering services in the Gaza Strip.
Thank you so much for joining us and outlining that so clearly. Kazem Abu Khalaf from UNICEF. Thank you.
Now, Jonathan Fowler is Senior Communications Manager at UNRWA. He joins us from Amman. Welcome to DW. Israel disputes that there is a shortage of aid in Gaza. What are your contacts in Gaza telling you about the current humanitarian situation there?
I mean, the idea that there is not a shortage is completely spurious. All aid entries were banned on the 2nd of March. Then the ceasefire collapsed, of course, a couple of weeks later, and no aid has entered. We have no food left to give as my agency, UNRWA. We ran out of food to give to people last week, flour and food boxes containing a variety of food. The World Food Programme ran out of its stocks a couple of days ago. Now, people have been coping as soon as aid stopped flowing in by rationing what they had, but that's not working anymore. People are reducing the amount of food that they're eating to something which is below survival levels. The idea that somehow there's this food around in the Gaza Strip it's quite shocking, because the reality on the ground, from my colleagues on the ground, other humanitarians from the UN and beyond, is that everything is running out, and we're inexorably moving towards, a massive hunger crisis.
So Israel banned your organization, UNRWA, from operating in Gaza, accusing the organization of being infiltrated by Hamas. Just give us a sense of how your teams in Gaza are operating since that ban came into effect at the end of January.
Well, to respond first to the second part of your question, the idea of infiltration, mass infiltration, or whatever, it's also, I'm afraid to say, it's rhetoric. There is no evidence for this, and it's an attempt to tarnish an entire humanitarian organization for other reasons, and I'm not in the heads of the people that make these accusations, of course. Now, beyond that, we continue to work. We are the largest humanitarian organization in the Gaza Strip. We have 12,000 operational staff. The rest of the UN has no more than 400 people. Those staff are working every single day, flat out, to provide medical care. We have 15,000 patients a day in our clinics. They were distributing food when there was any food left to distribute. Our water engineers have been re-establishing wells for tens of thousands of people, so they have something to drink. Our sanitation workers are moving garbage, fixing the systems to try to make sure that people actually have a dignified life and are not living between lakes of sewage, raw untreated sewage and mounds of garbage. And we're also trying to bring kids back on the path to learning. Children have been out of school. Now this is the second school year. And we're doing something to try to alleviate this apocalyptic situation. Now, just specifically on the idea of a ban, there are two Israeli laws. One that specifically attempts to ban our operations in occupied East Jerusalem, and that's a source of major concern. The second one is a law which imposes a so-called no-contact policy, preventing the Israeli authorities from having any dialogue with us. Now, that poses risk to our work, but in the meantime, we're delivering.
Jonathan, how hopeful are you that the hearings at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, can change the situation on the ground? What outcome would you be hoping for from this process?
One would hope, as with previous rulings, and of course I can't speculate on the outcome, but we've seen other, advisory opinions, rulings from the ICJ, underscoring that all parties to conflicts, and that includes the State of Israel, have to comply with their obligations under international humanitarian law at all times. Now, that's a voice of moral authority. It should also focus the minds of people, countries around the world, to say, look, enough is enough. Aid must be able to flow in. I want to emphasize the UN system, in its entirety, and including UNRWA, we've also appealed over and over for the release of the Israeli.
All right, that is Jonathan Fowler, the Senior Communications Manager at UNRWA, whose connection has broken down there, but I think we got the gist of his message. You might be hearing me, Jonathan. Thank you.